Well, I'd never figured that the panel would start early. That's almost unheard of. There are a lot of panels that start late. Early is a new thing. I'll have to count on that possibly being a thing next time. Anyways, so I'm actually having my notes sent to me by my sweet bunny at the moment, who's sitting right over there. But you know what? I don't really want to talk much until the actual appointed time, which is in almost 10 minutes. Just people who are trying to attend the panel, I don't want them to miss the discussion. This is going to be a very discussion-heavy panel. This is not going to be us lecturing from the cathedral. This is going to be a two-way street. It's been constructed intentionally that way because bullying is something that happens to everyone. We aren't experts on bullies. We aren't experts on being bullied. Everyone has.
There's no real reason for us to be here at all, or for you to listen to us.
Yeah. It would be very boring to listen to me drone on and on for an hour. It'd be easy for me to drone on, not so pleasant to listen to. But this is going to be a very an open Q&A session, and part of the intent here is to attempt to figure out what, in an ideal world, or even in our not-so-ideal world, what would we do to combat bullying? And has bullying as a cultural phenomenon changed significantly over time? That's something I kind of wanted to explore, asking people from the audience from various age groups, etc. This is the bullying panel, if it's what you're looking for. Someone peeked in twice, didn't know what they were looking for. Anyways, yeah, it's going to be a lot of open Q&A. I'm going to wait to give most of my spiel. I'm probably going to repeat a lot of this stuff in around 7 minutes. So, just because I know that people see on the schedule it says 8:30. It's not 8:30 yet. Anyways.
Oh wait.
I just wanted to say, oh, thank you. I was going to bring down a Sprite. I left my room and I knew I had forgotten something. And it was my Sprite. Bless you. That's wonderful. This panel, by the way, and I'm going to repeat this again for the newcomers, was actually inspired by Mr. Katt over there. On the 24-hour live stream that I arranged after Michael Moranes' attempted suicide due to bullying. This is the bullying panel, if that's what you're looking for. Come on in. We're actually early. I'm going to repeat everything I'm saying now. I just don't want people listening to dead air, or worse, just looking at my ugly mug. So we're just, look at me, I'm hot. Yeah, she is. It's true. But I'm happily, of course, taken by my bunny. But she is. And so is Dusty, for that matter. If I was into guys, I'd totally like Dusty. What was I going to say? Oh, yeah, the 24-hour marathon. And this whole marathon was about raising money for this kid who, probably everyone listening already knows this, attempted suicide, at least partially, if not mostly, because he was bullied for being a brony. Tara jumped on the cause like she did on the cause of Kiki, and it became a cause célèbre among the community. And as part of that, Dusty here showed up, and I forget what hour you were there for several hours.
I was there for, was he an hour in the first half?
Speak into the mic, Mr. Katt. Okay. Yeah.
I was there for an hour, the first half, and that was an hour for the second half. The second one.
Don't worry, you're not late. We're just talking.
The second one I interviewed Nicole Oliver.
Okay. Was that? It must have been the first one then. I don't think it was doing it. I don't think it was during an interview.
No, it was Josh Haber. I think I interviewed Josh Haber, the first one, and then Nicole Oliver, the second one. The first one is the thing you were thinking about.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. You are not late. You were actually early. We're
just chatting.
Thank you, Flips. This is an extended mic check, and everything we say, we're going to flip more or less.
Bringer of coffee. I salute you.
Yeah, I told you earlier today, Dana, I know you're from Seattle now because you smell like a Starbucks. You smell like a delicious pot of coffee, and now I want to get a coffee because you smell like...
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said about me.
She totally smells like a coffee house. I was like, coffee? Anyways.
I have an embarrassment of beverages now.
So Dusty, during this 24-hour thing, launched into this incredible...
Thank you for taking that one.
Is it monologue or soliloquy?
I think it was called a rant.
Rant? Okay, I'll be generous and say it was a soliloquy or a monologue. And whatever, my English teacher would have to correct me if I got the wrong one, about bullying. And I thought, you know what? Why isn't there a panel about bullying at Brony conventions? There should be, and Dusty should be on it. So that's why we're here. Dana was added later. I've known her for a long time. Figured she would have some insights into the subject. Dana and
You're
I...
gonna be disappointed.
Dana and I have experienced bullying due to our presence in the LGBT community. And for those of you, don't worry, you're not late. You're on time. You're actually 3 minutes early. We're just talking. We're going to repeat what we're saying. Dana and I faced flack for being LGBT, and if you were here for the panel a couple hours ago, which was a fantastic panel, by the way, if you want to Google the guy who did it, was it University of North Dakota Brony Study? Yeah.
Correct.
Google UND Brony Study or University North Dakota Brony Study. And fantastic. And he talked a lot about the relationship between perceptions of deviation from hegemonic masculinity. Don't worry, you're not late. You're early. You're on time. This is the bullying panel. Deviations from hegemonic masculinity and as they relate to the perception of sexual deviance, gender deviance, or just being generally unwholesome as a result of being perceived as a brony. And I think it's high time that people began talking about these things. They've been at the forefront of my mind ever since I founded BronyCon. But I'm trans. Most people are not. For me, I'm always thinking about gender roles, and I'm always thinking about bullying because I've always had questions about them, and I've always been bullied. But most people don't have that conversation, and I think it's especially refreshing to see something like that panel a couple hours ago. That was great. Where I guess he's mostly cis, I don't know. But a guy talking about, issues of why it's okay for a dude to like Fluttershy. And I think that we need to talk about that. And because that has a large impact on why people bully bronies. Hey, I guess, yeah, why not? Panel's about to start. What's up?
Yes, I would like to talk about a time about...
Come on up here. Take the mic. Because at the last panel, no one can, I can talk without a microphone just fine. Most people, however, can't, so.
Yes, when I was about 13, 14 years old or so, I was in a Boy Scout troop, and this troop was very abusive. Pretty much everyone would call me names because I was pretty much the only student, or not the only student, the only person in there who had mental issues such as ADHD and stuff like that, and they'd call me names, they'd ask questions I had no idea how to answer, and then they'd laugh because I'd answer it wrong. And then after 4 years of this, I basically at a summer camp broke down crying. And then the next meeting I went to, apparently the scoutmaster basically said, well, you're being kicked out. Three of us decided just to kick you out. And it was the 3 people in the troop who they didn't like me, and they didn't even have my dad to even defend me. So it was very traitorous. It was very, I shut down all communication for almost a year until I joined another troop. And this troop was a bit better, but towards the end of my Boy Scout career, when I was about to get Eagle Scout, the Scoutmaster started doing the same thing, and I basically, he sent a message to my father that was very rude and very wrong, and it felt like he was trying to prey to me by getting at my father, and it was like, which shocked me because I didn't think parents could get bullied. I didn't think parents could.
Everyone gets bullied.
Totally.
And
People
my
get
dad was
bullied.
one of the most respectable
Yeah.
people out there.
People get bullied in the workplace. They get bullied on the street. They get bullied just about anywhere. I will tell a story that I've told nobody in this fandom. I was bullied off my college football team
Oh, wait, there it is.
because I went to a dance at a fairly conservative area of Michigan. The college I went to was a fairly conservative area, and I didn't understand
Upper
that.
Peninsula?
Excuse me?
Was it the Upper Peninsula?
No. This was around Grand Rapids, a little town called Allendale. The kind of place that would roll up at sidewalks at like 7 at night, every day, not just Sunday. And they were having, this was back in 1987. Set your Wayback Machines for like 1987. Actually, fall of '86, when I graduated high school and went to play college. So back then, not many people talked about promiscuity or condoms, or like we do today. There's not much, sex education back then. So I went to a dance, and it was basically called a condom dance. So basically it was supposed to, introduce young people to condoms and sexual aids and all this other stuff that was
Something
happening at
that's
the time.
still
That was
controversial.
Yeah, very controversial for the time. It still is today. So a local TV station in Grand Rapids was there covering it, and picked me and this one girl to interview. And I'm going, great, hey, cool, you can be on TV, blah, blah, blah. When you're 18 years old, you're thinking, hey, this is great, yeah, awesome. So the question he asked me was, do you think this dance encourages promiscuity in teenage people? Now, I came from a very small town. We didn't use 4-syllable words. I had no idea what that word meant. None.
That's actually 5, Dusty.
Well, thank you. Okay. I still can't count either. But,
Boy, your school district sucked.
yeah, I know. But anyway, I didn't know what that word meant. And he had to ask me 3 times. And then he had to reword it more simply for me to understand. Now, unknown to me, most of my entire football team watched that newscast. And the next day, I was ridiculed on the practice field relentlessly until, and this is when we were doing warm-ups, the coaches weren't even out there yet. And it got to a point where I couldn't take it. I was done. I was going to either snap and hurt somebody, or I was just going to, break down. So I basically walked off the football field, walked past my position coaches, past the head coach. None of them asked me what was wrong. And I was starting on their JV team on defensive end. I was their starter. And none of them gave, 2 shakes of anything. And what was wrong? I just walked back into the locker room, took my stuff off, and never played for them again. Because I couldn't face it, because I was too young to realize what was wrong. And it wasn't me, that it was them and causing me pain. And if I had stood up to that, maybe, I'd have played football a couple of years instead of just the 1 year that I did play. But it happens to everybody. It happens in college, it happens in high school, it happens in the workplace. I was bullied in the workplace in a couple of places. I worked at a restaurant which had a really, really bad chef and I was a prep cook, basically. My grandmother had died. It was Easter weekend, and we were in a restaurant that had brunches on Easter. And my grandmother's getting buried, right? But he basically bullied me into working because I was one of his best prep cooks. And when he said when the Easter brunch was over, I could go, right? My grandma was getting buried that afternoon. And this guy bullied me to the point of, you're gonna be here, whether you like it or not, you're gonna lose your job, right? And as soon as it was over, I was about to leave, he says, well, I need your help doing the dishes because we get the dishes done for dinner. I almost took him out. I stood right up and I said, you're crazy. I didn't say anything, but I just looked at him like, say one more word. So a buddy of mine who was there, who was really good to me, he said, come on, Dusty, let's get it done. And we went and did the dishes and got them done, and I went to the back dock and I broke down crying. Broke down crying. And one of the waitresses came in and said the chef wanted to talk to me. And I just told her, I said, you tell that son of a bitch that if he gets near me, I will take him out. I'm going home right now. And if he wants to fire me, I don't care. And it was a turning point. It was a turning point. Sometimes when you get bullied, there's times to turn face. Other times, there are times to stand up and say, you know what, I'm not gonna take it anymore. And I'm gonna stand up to you and say, I'm better than that. I don't believe in what you're saying, and what you're doing is wrong.
Let's take this question from the audience. But wait, were you the gentleman who spoke last time? Mm-hmm. Okay, you can talk, but we want to hear from everyone also. We will talk to you though. But what's a quick question? Then I got some announcements to make. What's the question? Come on up here. Come on up here. Quickly, what's the question?
What do you do when you have an authority such as your father who feels that it's best for you to stay?
What do you mean by best for you to stay?
Like in the Boy Scout troop, all this was happening for 4 years straight, and my father said stay because he felt that it was the best thing for me to do.
Is your family religious? Okay, the Boy Scouts is a religious organization and always has been. And your father, being a religious man, probably felt that the Boy Scouts was the best for you because probably he was raised as a Boy Scout, was he not?
He was not a Boy Scout, but he was raised very...
Okay, he's very Christian.
Not knowing your father, though, I would
So-
also say... Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
not knowing your father, though, I think also there is a certain school of thought, particularly a certain school of masculine thought, although it's by no means exclusive to men, that holds that bullying is normal or good or part of life or it builds character or, all of that noise.
Okay, man up, etc.
Yeah, it'll teach you to be a man. Yeah.
Didn't work for me at all.
It taught me
Sorry.
not to be one, so.
There are, like I said, certain points, and there's a wonderful line in the movie Roadhouse that says,
Is there?
be nice. If two people are fighting, lead them outside, but be nice until it's time not to be nice. And I've lived my life to that credence, pretty much all of it, since I walked off that football field. Be nice until it's time not to be nice.
I note, though, that we haven't really fully answered that question, and I'm not sure it can be answered fully.
It really can't be answered because your father isn't here to ask him that question. Now, what I'd like to see you do, okay, as a person, is now obviously you're out of the Boy Scouts. You're out of the Boy Scouts for a while. Okay, you're an Eagle Scout, so you're an Eagle Scout, you've gotten through the Boy Scouts, right? At this point in your life, how old are you?
I'm 18, turning 19 in a week.
18, turning 19 in a week. I turned 46 on Tuesday. But
I turned
now-
37 on Wednesday.
awesome.
Oh man, for
Now-
once I'm the youngest on the panel.
Now
This
that
is
you're old
weird.
enough-
I'm only 35 almost.
Now that you're old enough, take your dad aside, go to a bar or whatever, and have a man-to-man with him, and say, Dad, I want to talk to you about this thing in my life, okay? You and I have to talk about it. And this is what happened to me. Do you realize, what they did to me? And see if he understands, or try to make him understand, because he's not going to understand until you tell him that this really hurt me, but you kept making me go when I was younger. Now that I'm old enough, I can talk to you about it. Could we have this discussion? I've had wonderful discussions with my dad now that I'm older, things that happened to me in high school, things that happened to me in college, where my dad was the same kind of guy. He grew up in the 60s, and basically it was man up, right? So when I went to school, it was like, you don't fight in school. You especially don't fight your brothers, and you don't fight in school. So it actually caused my bullying, because when I got bullied, if he didn't tell me that, I'd have gotten in a fight immediately in 3rd grade and people would have left me alone. But my dad, being 6 foot nothing, 320 pounds, a semi-pro football player, you're afraid of him at 5 years old, 6 years old. So you did what your dad said back in the 70s. So if I'd have gotten in a couple of scraps in grade school, maybe that wouldn't have happened all the way up. But in 8th grade, I've been pretty much bullied to the point of, I'm gonna snap, at some point, and it happened. We had one kid who was maybe up to here on me, who pick, just pick, for a couple of years, 7th grade, 8th grade. Finally, me and 3 friends are walking down to lunch, and this kid's got like 30 people with him, and he sees me, and he goes, oh, I can look great in front of these 30 people. He comes up and starts shoving me. Come on, Rhodes, I want to fight you. I said, why? It doesn't matter, I want to fight you. I was like, I gotta have a reason. I'm not gonna fight you. I start walking away. Now, he thinks that he's taking karate, which is the neat thing in the 80s. I'm taking karate.
It was.
So what does he do? He kicks me in the back. And I was already having a bad day. And that was it. That was the last thing I remember. Because everyone had to tell me what happened because I went white rage. I don't remember a dang thing. But they said I pretty much put him in the hospital. And in no uncertain terms either. So I'm not going to go into the details of it, but about 7th period, I get called down to the office. This was off, school grounds. I always go off school grounds for this kind of stuff. I get called down to the office. There's my dad, who had to drive 45 minutes one way from the Ford Motor plant that he was working at to be there. The principal, the vice principal, and 2 Marine City police officers, and the kid's dad. And they said, okay, we interviewed all the people that were part of this. And we believe your story, and not this guy's friends who were all, he did this, and they didn't all jive. My friends jibed. But we're going to have to suspend you. And the kid's dad is trying to get me arrested for assault, right? And the cops are sitting there going, they might take me down to juvie because I basically put this kid in the hospital. And my dad said, you're not doing anything to my child because for 13 years of his life, you did nothing. You did not protect him from this shit. You didn't tell me about it. And the two cops from Marine City, he actually graduated high school with, he told them, you're not taking my son anywhere because he protected himself. From the stories that these people said, all he did was protect himself. He was kicked in the back and he protected himself, and you're not going to do anything to him. And finally they said, okay, he's going to get detention for a week, and that was it. But finally, at some point, I had to stand up. And from that point on, I really didn't get picked on in high school, obviously. But I think the point I'm trying to make is that you can walk away and walk away and walk away and walk away. And that's really the best thing you can do, is walk away. But if somebody just won't leave you alone for years, a couple of years, just won't leave you alone, you can either change, like if it's a job, change jobs. If it's a school, go to the counselors and say, look, I need to be out of the classes this kid is in because he just won't leave me alone. And in today's day and age, they're a little better about that. It's like, okay, well, we do have some things going on, and the things that are in the news with Michael, things like that. Hopefully you can take that to your counselors and say, look, see what's happening here all over the country? I'd like some help. But it's one of those things where you have to stand up every now and then. And just say, just stop. I'm not going to listen to you anymore. I'm better than that. I know I'm a good person, and I don't care what you say. And it's taken me until 46 years old to be able to have, a Hell's Angel see this in my pocket when I'm at work, selling parts to bikers, and go, what's that? Oh, it's Rainbow Dash. You want to know about it? What do you mean? Oh, it's My Little Pony. And then all of a sudden they'll go, my daughter watches that. And we just start talking, and you stand up and you go, I like what I do. And I like what I do for you guys. I like what I do for charity. I like what I do. And I like me. And I think it comes down to, you have to like and love yourself. No matter what you think is wrong with you, because there's really nothing wrong with you. Everybody's an individual. She's an individual. She's an individual. I'm an individual. None of you are like any of us.
And be glad you're not like me, trust me.
Well, yeah, anyway.
But be ashamed you're not like me.
He is not like him. You are not like him. He is not like him. But if you do not like or love yourself, you cannot like or love anything else or anybody, because you'll have so much self-loathing that you'll start believing what people say. And that's really where bullying starts, is because of you and what you think and what you believe. If you can stand up and love what's in here, no one can get past your defense, because you can just tell them to, I don't need you. I don't need what you say about me, especially in high school. You know how many high school friends that I still contact every day now that I'm 46 years old? Zero. Nobody. How many of my college friends that I contact every day or have anything to do with? Zero. These people, later in life, mean absolutely squat to you. Squat. Because we're all pretty smart people. Everybody who I've ever seen in this fandom is pretty smart people, right? And you're going to move on from where you grew up to something better. You're going to go to college, you're going to get a job across country, or do something really cool with your lives. And those people aren't going to mean jack
Yeah.
in your life. So what does their opinion mean to you? What does their opinion even matter? You know? Because who cares if, Johnny's the prom king and you're not? Who cares if you don't go to the prom at all?
Yeah, trust me. Even as early as 5 years, for those of you who are younger, even 5 years after high school, you're not going to care who went to prom with whom.
You're not going to care.
And I hate to cut you off, Dusty, but I have some announcements. And also, Dana wants to say some stuff too, but Dusty's amazing. Can you guys see why I wanted him on this panel? Give it up, everyone, for DustyKatt. This guy's incredible.
I'm sorry, I have an opinion.
He likes to talk and he's got good things to say. I like to talk and I usually don't, so I got the worst half of that. A couple announcements, because we've had a number of people come in, a few people come out. The crowd has gotten quite a bit bigger, it seems, so that's good. This is a Q&A panel. Some panels have Q&A sections. This is a Q&A panel, which means at any point, if we see a hand up, we will try to call on you, and you can come up here and talk into the mic, unless you happen to be able to speak from across the room like a loudmouth like me, but most people can't. Come on up here, we don't bite, you can talk in the mic. Now, for those of you who wonder what this panel came from, as I said in the pre-panel, I should say, this came from DustyKatt's amazing soliloquy against bullying on the 24-hour Michael Moranis benefit charity broadcast, which I constructed by the seat of my pants, and it was a wonderful success, and Michael's family earned quite a bit of money, and it was all great. The whole community came together, the VAs, con orgs, media organizations, individual speakers. It was great. Anyways, but at some point during that, and it was to benefit someone who attempted suicide and ended up with permanent brain damage because he was bullied, in this case for being a brony. But bullying happens for all kinds of reasons, of course. We're quite familiar with at least one of them. He came and he made this amazing speech, and he said, we need to do a panel about this. And as I said also in the pre-meeting, a lot of the bullying that bronies receive, if you were here, especially at the panel 2 panels ago, it's about perceived gender roles, perceived sexuality. The reason that coming out of the stable is a thing is for the exact same reason that coming out of the closet is a thing, because by and large, if you say you're a brony, a lot of people will assume that you're gay, or trans, or a pedophile, but usually gay. That's the first thing that comes to mind. And they think being gay is bad, and therefore you get bullied for it, even though you're probably not gay, but if you are, who gives a crap? But the thing is, the bullying comes from the same source. And I actually have a question for the audience. Raise your hand if you've ever been bullied. Yeah. Raise your hand if you've ever seen someone being bullied. Exactly. Everyone's hands are up for the camera. Now, I actually have a question to bring up some thoughts, because we're all of different ages here. Dusty's in his 40s, Dana and I are in our 30s. I see some younger faces, I see some older faces. Now, let's try an experiment here. Raise your hands if you're bullied again, just like before. Okay, now, put your hand down if you are younger than 20. Put your hand down if you're younger than 30. Put your hand down if you're younger than 40. That's if you were bullied. Now, I didn't count, but I did take a quick in my hand survey. You can put your hand down. It's fine. I was attempting to correlate between, as the person who started BronyCon, I have a pretty good idea of the demographics of who shows up at these conventions. And I noticed, as I expected, that of course there were more younger people who were bullied. Sorry. That's okay. I know you want to talk, and you are going to talk. As soon as I'm done ranting. But I've noticed that it seems that things are, as Dusty alluded to, slowly getting better. Because, again, while I noticed that more of the younger people raised their hands, the fact is that 90% of the people in this fandom are very young, under 25, and therefore you expect that all the hands up, being up, will reflect. I guess what I'm saying is that it's getting better because a smaller percentage of the younger people had their hands raised than the older people. When I grew up in the 1980s, I was under significant pressure because I was not seen as liking the things that a guy was supposed to like. I didn't understand why I was supposed to be a guy. I didn't understand why I was supposed to like these things. All I understood is that I was bullied for it constantly. And from what I've been told, things are slowly getting better. It takes time, but they're slowly getting better. And the fact that I noticed that of the older people, I'd say a greater percentage of you had your hands raised than the younger people, it's a sign of progress. But still, we had a room full of raised hands. The problem is still huge. It's systemic, and it continues from generation to generation. And I think largely because it's a cycle. Younger students learn it from older students ad infinitum. It's like, it's like those little jingles kids sing. Jingle bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. How do people learn this stuff? Well, the freshmen learn it from the seniors, and then the new freshmen 3 years later learn it from the seniors. And it continues. The question is, how do we break this cycle? And my loved one happens to work in the educational field, and it's very heartening to note that she says that most of the training they do in the educational field is on bullying abatement. That's not to say bullying hasn't gone away. It has gone away. It hasn't. We all know that. But at least now, as Dusty said, there's a discussion on the problem. It's a thing people realize exists, and people are finally addressing bullying among students. At the soundboard, guys, at the soundboard, it's a little loud. Coming for you. That it's actually a thing that exists. And one thing that's remarkable is that until recently, there were far more laws addressing adult bullying victims, like bullying at the workplace. And there still are more laws about that than there are laws protecting kids, even though kids are more vulnerable. I think that's worth noting. Anyways, this is a Q&A panel. Keep your questions coming, but for now, poor Dana here has had to listen to us loudmouths. Let's hear how she can weigh in on the situation.
Anyone here who knows me knows what a strain it is on me to let other people talk for 15 minutes.
And I'm terribly sorry.
No worries at all. You both have very valuable things to say. I actually wanted to add a little bit to what Dusty was saying, because my high school experience was somewhat different. Sort of a different shade of on the bullying spectrum, because I was not a kid who was going to pose a credible physical threat to anyone ever. I was a skinny little weakling. Everyone knew that about me. Everyone perceived me as effeminate. They were not actually wrong. I just don't think that's a negative thing. I used to get my ass kicked in PE every day. And I couldn't have handled a one-on-one fight. There was nothing I could have done about an 8-on-1 fight, which is what I was facing in the locker room every day. And the gym teacher was also the football coach. And he was one of those guys who, he used to give us lectures at the beginning of class on how you guys are men and you're gonna blah, 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 blah. And he would go on for 5 minutes at a stretch sometimes about how earrings were emasculating. He was this kind of, it was like having Biff from Back to the Future as a football coach teaching PE to me.
Quick aside, show of hands, how many were bullied in PE specifically?
Yeah, this is a thing.
This is a thing.
I used to get stuffed in trash cans in PE. I used to do a comic strip called Ozzie and Millie, for people who don't know that, and Ozzie would always get stuffed in trash cans by his bully, and that was directly from my own experience. That was something that used to happen to me every day, and so there was nothing I could do about it. There was nothing the coach was going to do about it. I understand he later got fired for sexual harassment. That was...
Go figure.
It was a golden moment in my life when I learned that. I complained to my parents, because what else was I going to do? And my parents ended up talking to the academic vice principal of the school, and he turned out to be an ally. He basically told me that even though the state required me to take a certain amount of PE, if I didn't want to take it and just take a study period, he was going to look the other way. And, and yeah, to this date, I probably technically, you could probably legally question my high school diploma because I didn't meet the state requirement for physical education. And I think allies are really important. He proved to be an ally then. There was a situation later that I got myself into when a couple of friends and I decided we were going to stage a gay rights protest at our Catholic high school.
Oh, boy.
One morning before everybody was there, we showed up early and we hung pink cardboard triangles all over the school. And we put a few of them in random lockers. And by the time classes started, the whole school was buzzing about this. And I ended up being the public face of it, mostly because I was the loudmouth in the group. And my physical safety was immediately very threatened. And, I had one friend who was big enough to be physically threatening, and I started having him walk me to my car, because otherwise I was just going to get the snot beaten out of me in the parking lot. And this went on for a while, and it wasn't ideal. But there was someone on the faculty, a guy named Wally Larson. I knew him as Mr. Larson then. I know him as Wally now. We're still friends. He was a math teacher. He wasn't even my math teacher. But he summoned me into his room one day, and he was like, I see what's going on. If you need anything, I'm here for you. And just having him say that was it was a huge thing for me. And it started a relationship. He and I are still friends, and he's out of the closet and works for Microsoft now. And he's a cool guy, and he was, knowing that I had allies, knowing that I wasn't facing it alone, was the difference probably between me and a suicide attempt. So, your dad may not be an ally, individual people in your life may or not be allies, but there are people around, and it makes such a difference if you seek them out. And if you're in a position to be that sort of ally to someone who's being bullied, do not hesitate to speak up, because it's so
very
important.
important. You could literally be saving a life. Yes, you're over there. The chairs are covered in glue. It's a new feature. Dana, you wanna? Oh, Dusty's fixing them up.
It was actually, what I want to say is kind of tied into what you were talking about just now about allies. And like everybody else in this room, I was bullied. In fact, my childhood was a lot like Dusty's. I was picked on for no real discernible reason. But, eventually I learned how to stand up for myself, but I didn't really have anybody who stood up for me either. And I think as I got older, especially now that, I'm grown, 26 years old, and especially after joining this fandom, I've realized that, not everybody can stand up for themselves, like like Dana here, who, some people, they just can't do it. And so I think it's everybody's responsibility that if you see someone bullied, you need to speak up and help them out, because, they could just suffer through life for years, nothing, or, sometimes something tragic like what happened to young Mr. Marone is what happened. So everybody, we need to watch each other's backs and be there for each other.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was amazing, guys. Seriously.
Good.
A brief anecdote before I return. When you said that you need to stand up for other people, brief story from my childhood. I was bullied despite being big. I've always been tall. When I was a kid, I was even taller on a percentile basis. I was at the 99th percentile. Oh, we'll get you in just a moment. Come up here. We'll hook you up with a mic. I was really tall, really big, but they still bullied me because I was an expert victim, right? I've had to learn not to be a victim. But at one point, last year in middle school, I saw a kid being bullied. He was much smaller than me. Even though I was still being bullied myself, I stood there and leaned against a rail and tried to divert the bully's attention away from him and onto me. And as I expected, it worked. They started bullying me instead. That's fine, I knew how to take it. What was interesting is that the kid who was being bullied also started bullying me. Now, that being said, I still did the right thing, and I would do it again. Because, sure, sometimes if you try to help someone out, they'll end up stabbing you in the back. But you know what? What about that time when you don't get stabbed in the back? What about even if they stab you in the back just so that the people will stop bullying them afterwards? The point is that when you stick up for others, when you help others, you could be literally saving them.
Going
The mic?
Going back to what you were saying about people helping you, I was bullied pretty much the entirety of my school life from elementary to high school, but middle school was definitely a turning point in that, because I went to a charter school where there's maybe 100 students max, and yeah,
Okay, yes.
because there's less people for the bullies to focus on, right?
And it's more cliquish, too.
Yeah, that too. And but the bullying towards me had gotten so bad that the staff was actually giving those bullies detentions just for getting near me when I didn't want them near me, because it had gone to that point that they just had to be forced away from me so much. But because of that, it gave me time to go from introverted, quiet, wouldn't do anything to defend myself person to being able to stand up for myself. So I was able to handle it better when it happened in high school.
That's a beautiful thing. You have to learn to love yourself. Part of the most insidious, round of applause, everyone, really. Part of the most insidious things, one of the most insidious things about bullying is that it makes you question yourself. I spent the formative years of my childhood being told every day I was stupid, being told I was ugly, being told I was gay, I was, quote, retarded, end quote, and some other things that can't be repeated in public, polite company. And I ended up believing literally every single one of those things. I never thought I'd make it past the age of 18. This convention might not have existed because I never thought I'd make it past 18, which meant there would have been no BronyCon, there would have been no BABScon. There would have been conventions eventually, but who knows? Maybe they would have been tiny. Maybe they would have been very different. Maybe they wouldn't have had panels like this. Maybe there would have just been vendors. Who the hell knows? I almost died. Because bullying gets under your skin and it makes you believe what the bullies are saying. Don't. That's the best advice I have. That's the takeaway. Don't let them live inside your head rent-free, as one of my roommates used to say. That's the best thing this guy ever said. Don't let people live in your head rent-free. Don't let people dictate your self-esteem. You do have to love yourself. And you know, in my case, it's taken me 35 or 34 years. I turned 35 later this month to understand that. You have to love yourself. And you know what? It sometimes takes time to heal, to learn to love yourself. But nevertheless, you need to. It's the most important survival tool and self-improvement tool at your disposal.
When you leave high school, how can you defend those who are your friends who are being bullied, who are like freshmen or sophomores?
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
Dana?
You can support them by being there for them to talk to, and say that you've been through it, and give them tools how to deal with it, because you've been through it. I mean, it's really what I want to do for you guys, okay? I get emails all the time from kids saying, Dusty, what do I do? And simple things from, I'm going on a date on Wednesday, how do I act? What do I do? It's like, don't you have a father? But anyway, but I get kids saying, you know, I'm being bullied, what do I do? And I do my best to give them some advice about what I've been through and what you can expect. You know, you expect to stand up for yourself, and it's going to get a little worse. But the minute you don't become an easy target, bullies go find an easier target. But when they find that easier target, stand up for them. Okay? Don't just you know, shift the target and then ignore it, right? Because now, if you can learn how to deal with it, teach others to learn how to deal with it and be their shield. Because be the person that you needed, right? Be the person that you needed.
We have another question.
Hi.
She has a microphone.
Actually, I had a statement. First of all, I wanted to say what you said really spoke to me because I also didn't think that I would live to be 18. And I was...
And if you also had the same experience, thought you'd be dead before you graduated high school and college.
Yeah. And I actually attempted it.
A lot of us have.
Yeah. And what I wanted to say, because somebody asked how you can help, I now go out of my way to mentor people who I know are depressed. Friends of my son's in his school, a girl that I knew was cutting herself. I knew that she was anorexic, and I went out of my way to say, because I'm also an arts instructor, and I go out of my way to say, hey, if you want to talk to me, I'll talk to you. And I tell them what I went through, and I tell them that it gets better, and I tell them that you just, don't look at what's going on right now. Realize that someday it's not going to be like this, and look forward to what can happen next, and share that experience, because if they know you went through it, they know that you survived it, it helps them to survive it.
Yep. How many people saw on the news the kid in Pennsylvania who audio taped his bullying?
Yeah. And what happened to him?
What happened to him? He got brought up on charges.
Yeah.
Because Pennsylvania is a screwed up state.
It's not just Pennsylvania. Come on up here, person in the wonderful cheese hat. Before the cheese hat person speaks, though, come on. We're going to mic you up. Oh, you can wait? Okay. This is not just a Pennsylvania thing. Was it? Okay. Well, everyone in this audience is a friend of ours. We're all friends here. This is a friendly community.
This is true.
It really is. There are problems
something I love
sometimes,
about
but at the end of the day, I go to these conventions and I feel like I'm home. I feel like everyone in these conventions is friendly. Even when they're not friendly, they're friendly. We argue, but at the end of the day. Anyways, I had a very similar experience in Florida. Someone was insulting me constantly the moment I stood up for myself, and it wasn't even physically. I made basically a yo mama joke at the guy. He socks me in the stomach and I stagger out of the room in pain. I get a Saturday detention. The bully gets a regular detention, which is a much lesser sentence. So this is nothing new. It's not just Pennsylvania, sadly.
Yeah, and my husband, he's a very private person. He's not here right now. I probably shouldn't be telling you too many stories about him, but I will say this. He went to school in rural Michigan, and
Ever noticed it's always the rural areas that are the worst?
yeah, it was a tiny school with, because it was in the middle of nowhere and there aren't that many people. And so he was the new kid because he changed districts at like 11, and he used to just get the snot beaten out of him all the time, and the school authorities did absolutely nothing about it. Often he was punished, because I saw what you did, I didn't see what they did that provoked it, so I have to give you detention. And at one point, a vice president of the school told him, this wouldn't happen if you weren't so weird.
Yeah, victim blaming is a thing that exists.
Long story short, he basically has
venue.
PTSD from the experience, and I think what saved him was, not to blow my own horn, but me, just knowing that he could be loved by someone.
Yeah.
But he's still working his way out of that at 36 years old.
Quick question, and we got a couple other people we want to talk to.
Oh, it's just a quick comment.
Sure.
At a nearby high school that was at, apparently someone, 2 weeks before their senior graduation ceremony, they just couldn't take it anymore, and they just committed. It was like, you had 2 weeks. You had 2 weeks, and then you were out of the system. It's like, he couldn't even do that.
It's never rational, though. When you get pushed to that point, you're beyond reasoning that out.
Yeah, there comes a point you get pushed over that. Cheesehead person. Come on up, we'll mic you up.
Even though you're loud, come be louder.
Yes, we will enhance the loud. It's a good thing. Oh great, I'm gonna get sued by Martha Stewart.
As far as blaming the victim goes, this case in Philadelphia, where this kid who records his bullies bullying him, and he may get pressed charges. A while back, Grayson Bruce. He brought a backpack or a lunchbox to school. He got bullied. What do? They try to blame him. Try to ban him from bringing that up. My point is, when the powers that be try to blame you for being bullied, go somewhere else. Grayson Bruce and his mother, they went public with this. What happened? The ban got overturned. And as far as this case in Philadelphia, now this kid and his mother, they're going public with this. Think about everyone in this room who says that they've been bullied. Well, guess what? So we have a lot of other people out there. And if they press charges against this kid, you think they're gonna find a jury that's gonna convict them?
I think the reason that authorities stand up for, oh, by the way, excellent. Give him a hand. I'm convinced that the reason that school authorities sometimes side with a bully or refuse to take sides or just passively watch is because that's the path of least resistance, and the world's full of lazy people. So I think it does a lot if every time something like that happens, we just raise holy hell over it, because that makes it a lot less convenient for them, and maybe they'll listen.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And it's come on up, we'll mic you up. I want to say something briefly, then it's your turn again. What you guys have just been saying and what some of the audience members have brought up about advocating, you brought up about advocating for people who are still in the school system. The thing about the school system is not set up to advocate for students. If you think about it, there are groups within the school system that advocate for teachers. There are teachers' unions. There are the teachers themselves. You want to talk? You come up. We'll mic you up. Wait in line, please, behind the person in this wonderful, wonderful costume. And but there's groups that advocate for the teachers. There are groups that advocate for the administrators. There's literally no such thing as a group that advocates for the students. The closest you get in the school is the school counselor. And usually they're not empowered to do anything. What we need to do is have more people, both in and out of the school system, advocating for students and advocating for there being a structure put in place where that students can go to when they have a complaint, sort of like an ombudsman or an ombudswoman, someone whose duty is to stand up for people.
I just wanted to say, especially about the whole, how the authorities will, when someone gets bullied, especially these days with the whole zero tolerance policy thing.
Which never works.
Yeah, both the victim and the offender get punished.
Often equally, and usually the victim gets worse.
Right, and so I just wanted to say to the audience, this is more of a comment, especially to those who have children or will have children in the future. What Dusty's father did for him that day, that is what you need to do for your kids, because support starts at home. And if you teach your future generations not to tolerate bullying, you're going to see it's only going to get better from here on out. And that's what this community stands for, and it is awesome.
And I will say that from that day forward, I saw my dad in a completely different light. Completely different light, because I was 13.
Every parent
I was
needs to be
13 at
like
the time,
this.
and I was still afraid of him. And that day turned it around.
Kind of on the point of what you were mentioning earlier about advocacy for students, advocacy
A
for
little
groups.
closer to the mic. You got position it around 2 fingers from your mouth, folks. A lot of folks don't realize that. Too close and you get this. Too far and you...
I was somebody who was very fortunate that my high school experience was actually very nice and free of bullying. It wasn't until I got to college, actually, that I started getting bullying experience.
That's unusual.
I went to a Jesuit college. So the explanation comes after the thing. And for a while, there was just nobody I had to turn to. There was, no GSA on campus, nothing like that. And one day, I was working with my therapist, and she said to me, if you can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, sometimes you have to make your own light. And
sometimes you have to be your own light.
It stuck with me so hard. It's been something so guiding with me that I went forth, and sometimes you have to put yourself out there in order to help yourself. We created a GSA on campus. We worked for everything we had. I ran the queer support group on campus. We had a gay straight alliance that started up, and suddenly all these people are coming out of the woodwork and being like, oh, I identify with this. And we actually ended up getting a Jesuit university to have a yearly drag show. And
Wow. Good going.
I think that just became my new hero.
And it kind of going on with, our cheesehead friend was saying, is this whole time, the system is going to push back on you. They don't like change. It's not that they don't like you. It's not that they don't like, social progress, but they just are honestly lazy and don't want change. We had, because before, all the school clubs have to register their roster, but because we were a support group, I didn't try to allow that. I did not want any of these names out because you know why. You know perfectly well how that is. And it's just sometimes that strength isn't going to come from other people. You're not always going to be fortunate enough to have allies around you. So look within yourself and realize that you are an amazing person and you can kick ass and do whatever you want.
I love that costume. Holy moly, that's amazing.
I'm going to use the two-finger rule. Now, when I was in high school, I was bullied quite relentlessly as well for my ethnicity. And what I found very unfortunate, and I think back at it now, is that I had to fight back. And every single time you look on videos online, you see a kid fight back, like Zangief kid or something like that, and you see the first responses are, I'm glad he did, it worked, and usually it does. So I guess the question I'm asking, at what point do you have to use violence?
I think that's a Dusty question.
Well, like I said, it took me all of grade school, all of 7th grade, and half of 8th grade before they pushed me to a point where that was the level, you know?
It's a last recourse.
It's a last recourse. It really is. You have to try to be the better person, because you are normally, people who get bullied, smarter, more gregarious, and can think. You have a better way of thinking. Most people I know are pretty good at algebra in this, because algebra is a thought process.
When I was in school,
But anyway,
the kids used to say that my first word was algebra.
there
It
you
was
go.
actually
Well, it's a thought. Algebra is a thought process. It's not math. So basically, you can think a little clearer than most people. When I was in 6th grade, I was reading a 12th grade level.
Me too.
And a lot of people were basically bullying me for being smart. Okay.
Show of hands, who here?
How many people were bullied for being
level?
smart? Okay, yeah, half of the people in here. So you have to rise. It's sort of cliche, but you have to try to rise above into, like I say, you be nice until it's time not to be, until you're pushed to a point that you just can't take it anymore. Okay, and I would bring up something that everybody knows and as everybody has seen on YouTube. Who's seen the film DustyKatt Rages at BonyCon?
Oh, yeah. And hey, Dusty, by the way, I'm sorry for laughing at that thing. That was wrong of me.
Okay.
I mostly had beef with Dusty because of his boss. Long story short.
But
we're cool
anyway,
now.
everybody knows the spaghetti joke. Okay?
By the way, spaghetti charity dinner tonight, midnight. Check out the flyer on the boom board.
So anyway, there was a meme on the internet I knew nothing about, which is called the spaghetti meme, where somebody would bring a bag of cooked spaghetti and dump it in front of people that they were awkward with. And this is a form of bullying, okay? Some people don't think it is. It's just a joke. Bullshit, okay? When I come to these things, I don't want people going to her or you and taking a picture and going, ugh, and throwing spaghetti on the floor. That doesn't make you feel good. That doesn't make you feel good. It definitely doesn't make me feel good. Okay? It's not a joke. It's a bullying tactic. So, they did this at BonyCon all over the place. And then they started saying they were going to throw spaghetti at the VAs. Okay? And somebody got in line and said they were in line to talk to the VAs and they were going to throw spaghetti at the VAs. Not on my watch. So I confronted the person. And I said, "Where's the spaghetti?" He said, "I don't have any." "Bullshit, we're watching you. You said it. Right here. I got it right here."
A wild smoke
Where is it?
appears.
He said, "I don't got it." "Okay, fine. But guess what? We're watching you." That was almost the end of BonyCon. It was the last day. So right at the BonyCon ends, if anybody was there, the security went, "Get the out of my building." They just shoved everybody out. So everybody's like stressed, you know, "What the hell are you doing, moving us out?" So I'm in front of the building, and there's some bronies from Washington State, or no, Washington D.C., wanted to take pictures with me. Awesome, great, let's take some pictures. And there's these 4 guys who come up, who basically, like one guy has a pony shirt on, the rest of them have all sort of black stuff, sort of like what you're wearing. And they say, "Oh, we want to take a picture too." Sure, no problem. So I get done with these guys, and they come over, and I got, we're doing the whole thing. And this guy has his camera up like this, going, okay, I need a count. And this guy on my left arm goes, okay, I need a countdown. 1, 2, 3. I'm going, what the hell? Spaghetti! And they all throw freaking bags of spaghetti over me. One comes from over here. And I'm thinking they're throwing it at me. Okay? One, that's assault. So, me being a trained guard, I've been a bodyguard, I'm thinking it's a 4-on-1. I need to move. So I've got this guy. I reach down, grab the bag of spaghetti. I crush it into, I didn't punch him, I crushed it into his chest, saying, it's not a goddamn joke anymore. This isn't funny. And as I'm moving him away, he says, which is not on the video, by the way, you were supposed to surround him. And do what? Exactly. Okay? You didn't get the chance, so I don't know what they were planning. But I've moved myself away. It's now a 1-on-1 instead of a 4-on-1. And I shove the guy away and move away. He says, well, don't assault me. Who assaulted who here?
Yeah.
Okay? Who assaulted who? So as he's 15 feet away, I grab the bag of spaghetti and I flick it backhand. I said, take your damn spaghetti and get out of here. I hit him right in the face with it. But anyway, that's not on the video either. So when they cut the video together to put on YouTube, they pixelate their faces. They take out, you're supposed to surround him, and took what I said, which was take your goddamn spaghetti and get out of here, and moved it up, making me look like a complete, okay? And this is not bullying how? And these are
The way the video was posted just continued the bullying.
It's continued bullying. In fact, three or four people have posted it, including yelling at cats, who I thought was a cool guy up until that point.
Yeah,
But, that's the only guy I'm actually going to say, because, you did it, and you did it.
For the record, yelling has bullied me as well for being trained.
But anyway, so that was a form of bullying. And to this day, I'm answering questions about it. That gentleman right there asked me about it, who knows nothing about the Brony Phantom. He came here, saw me today, and said, I want to ask you a question about this. I was like, fine, I'm not gonna run from it. But I took that, and we turned it into something good, because at Nightmare Nights last year, we had a spaghetti, we called it a spaghetti food drive for the homeless in North Dallas, Texas. And it was a wonderful thing. We raised $5,000 or $6,000, I believe, in food.
And we had also people who hated each other coming together to work on this. So the whole thing was spinning straw into gold.
Yeah,
Or spaghetti into gold.
Purple Tinker, and I'll tell you guys right now, me and Purple Tinker used to be at each other's throats.
Constantly, yeah.
Constantly, because she didn't understand me, and I didn't understand her. Okay, this is a summit of the Middle East right
She's
here.
coming out of the splash zone here for Denver.
Yes, she's in the middle. But we used to. We had a Skype conversation that turned into a yelling match like you wouldn't believe.
Yeah, and as you can see, we're both capable of yelling. So
Yeah, misunderstanding. But anyway, this means more than this. Okay, helping you guys get over this, helping society get over this, means more to me than any petty squabble that me and Purple Tinker have ever had, or EFN and Ponyville Live have ever had.
And that's why the best minutes of this community come when those groups work together.
Yeah.
With Michael Moranis, with Kiki.
With Kiki and Michael Moranis.
With Unicon.
Yeah, your turn. I'm sorry, I was going off again.
Hi, yes.
Into the mic, dear.
Okay.
Into the mic.
Yes, I just wanted to say that, I do work in the education field. I transport special needs children, and they usually are almost always targeted for bullying. Right up here? Okay, thank you. Yes, so I just wanted to say that things are changing. I am subject to several hours of training a month on almost specifically this topic of bullying, and there is a lot of there's talk about it even way up there. It isn't, they're not turning a blind eye to this anymore, and things will get better, and it is a two-way street, and it is something that isn't going to change overnight. There's no flick of a switch and suddenly it's going to go away. But we're working on it, and we are listening and we are looking and we are protecting these kids the best we can.
Awesome. Very awesome. Thank you. We got about 5 minutes left, so we're going to get through this as much fast as possible.
I know it's not necessarily a bullying issue, but what do any of you have to say about disapproving parents?
Stupid laws of physics.
Disapproving parents. Well, you have to stand back and you have to disconnect from them disapproving and think about it from their point of view, okay? Maybe they were bullied kids and they don't want the same for you. And they see what you're doing as a big freaking red flag to bulls that would be bullies, okay? And they're afraid for you sometimes. And that could be a warped sense of their love for you, that they don't want something bad to happen to you, and they see this happening, and it's gonna happen, and they see the red flag, and they want to keep you from it, okay? And that could be it. You know, you could sit down and say, can we have an adult discussion about this? You're obviously old enough to have an adult discussion with your parents. And that might actually turn their head around and go, Mom, Dad, can I have an adult discussion with you guys about this? And they might go, where'd that come from?
They might not, too.
Yeah.
I mean, I know plenty of people who are completely estranged from their parents because their parents refuse to understand them for
Very common
whatever
among trans
reason.
people. Very common. We've had a lot of us lose parents. Oh, were you done, David?
No, that was what I was going to say. I mean, I could go on in that subject. But we're a little short on time.
Yeah. Wanted to turn the mic over to the next person in line.
Okay, here, there we go. Just trying to get a comfortable range. I want to make this quick because I know that we are pressed for time. And so I think I'm one of the younger people here who's not like, a child of some of the older people here. I'm in 10th grade still, so, I'm still in high school, and I have been faced with bullying since I was in elementary school. And I've actually attempted suicide quite a few times, which is, something that I've had to, go through because of that and various other pressures. But there's something that I've noticed throughout the entire my entire time of dealing with this up and down roller coaster of things like that is that even though we are put under the bullying pressure and that we are constantly bullied by other people, sometimes we fall prey into their system too, and we end up inadvertently bullying others. So this is less of a question, more of a a topic I want to address, that even though we may not feel like it, like we're actually doing it, many bullies do not realize that they're actually hurting other people. So, and I came into the panel a little bit late, so I don't know if this was addressed at the beginning or not, but we have to make sure that we don't become, the monsters that we're fighting, which is a paraphrased quote by...
I actually have something to add to that. First of all, excellent. Thank you.
And I do think that was the first time the subject was brought up, and it's very much we're talking about it.
First of all, don't die, we need you. And second of all, like a lot of visible people on the internet, like the person to my left and the person to my right, I've been bullied online too. And I had the pleasure, if that's the word, of knowing someone who had attempted to bully me online in the past. I actually had not noticed his bullying attempts, which is how pathetic they were. But this is somebody who had written scathing stuff about my work and about me personally on one of those We're Furries Who Hate Furries websites.
Oh no, was that Rail Fox and Raya?
No.
Okay.
I'm not even going to say who it was, although probably none of you have heard of him because he's such a pathetic load. But that's sort of mean for me to say it that way, and the reason I say that is because I got to know him without knowing that he had that history with me. He was local, and he and my husband got to be sort of friends, and my boyfriend at the time, but we lived together and whatever. So, you know, it was, you couldn't be friends with one of us without at least encountering the other. And he was very startled when my husband was like, oh, by the way, I live with Dana Simpson, she's my girlfriend. And I was like, Dana Simpson, whoa, and we went bowling together, and nothing, and he didn't say anything to me at the time, but then I got this drunken phone call from him like a couple days later, and he was just in tears, and he wanted to know if I could ever forgive him for the nasty stuff that he'd said about me on the internet. And he told me later, when he had sobered up, that he felt that he and like all of the other, you know, the 4chan style of bully, these are the people who were bullied in school and took the wrong lesson from it. To, you know, who basically got bullied in school and now feel like it's their turn to be cruel to someone else and to boost their own bruised self-esteem by taking it out on someone else.
That even bullies can be victims too. And victims can be bullies.
And yeah, many people play both roles in their lives. And I told him that, you know, I forgave him. I gave him my forgiveness, and we kept hanging out with him. Then he started talking shit about me online again. And this time he started using stuff he knew about me from having actually met me and actually been in my house. And so we never talked to him again, and I don't know where he is. If I ever see him again, I have never struck another person in anger in my life, but I'm going to put my boot squarely between his legs if I ever see him again. And I know I can do this because I can outrun him. And I suppose my only point, I don't really have a point that I'm bringing that to. I don't think I can bring that line of thinking to a satisfactory conclusion, except to say that have sympathy for the people who are so wounded that they lash out.
And I will give you one online thing that happened today. Everyone knows I did the arm wrestling thing earlier today. Josh Dean, who helps run the con, BonyCon now, said, I support you, Dusty. And this person, Alabaster, on Twitter, says, I have a deep-seated hatred just for you. For me. And I said, and I twittered back, well, everyone has to have a hobby, or something like that. And just came back in just vitriol for no reason whatsoever. I don't even know this person. And it's like, why? Why, really? I mean, why would you take time out of your day, basically to send me that message? Really? Why are you using the very short amount of minutes in the history of the world that you're on this planet to send me that message? And why am I using that same amount of time on this wide world of planet that I'm going to be here to listen to it?
If you have pain from bullying, don't use it to make someone else unhappy.
No, don't do that.
Use it to make somebody else happy and heal yourself that way.
I only have, I'm 46. I'm on the downslide now. I'm headed for the hole. I've only got so many years left. I'm not going to spend them bullying anybody else or worrying about somebody doing that to me, because I don't got time for it anymore. I don't have time for it anymore. And you know what? If I'd have realized that when I was your age, I'd have a lot more time in my life to enjoy. And I think that's where I'm going to end it, okay? So you guys, don't listen to this. You have way more minutes in your life left than I got. Don't waste them. Listen to them.
Be excellent to each other.
You guys have been an amazing audience, and this panel is going to be held again at least one other convention this year at TrotCon in Columbus, Ohio. Also look for, TrotCon, woo! Amazing convention. And we're going to be probably holding a similar panel in the future, because I think this is something that needs to happen. And guys, thanks again, and remember, listen, it really can get better. Manly is poorly on the internet, former victim of bullying, BFFs with, I've no sleep, with the author, Peter S. Beagle, and a published cartoonist, former victim of bullying, created an entire genre of conventions, former victim of bullying. You can make it past 18, you can make it past 25, you can make it past 45, and it can and does get better. And that's all, guys. Thank you so much.